make money, then it don't make sense. You don't make money, then keep it 2 cents. Hating on me, cause a bitch gotta get it, they mad, cause the bank account got 7 digits.
What's poppin', everybody? It's your favorite doctor, that girl, Henny, and I'm here to pour up your Diddy court doc update. Now, I know a lot of y'all are probably sitting back like, Henny, you are turning into a Diddy channel, and you promised us that you was going to get back into some of the other stuff that you've been getting into. We need you to get back in these internet streets and start dragging like nobody has ever drugged before and keeping us up on all the hot Henny that's going on besides these doggone court docs, because all you do is court docs. I know. And I shall return. But I have to do like Diddy told Jane. I've got to finish strong and I got to see this thing through, right? Right. So, child, Judge Arun Submarinian has responded. But it ain't the response that we was all looking for, okay? He responded to the government and the government only. He ain't even respond to the bail request that was happening or the proposed reconsideration, I should say. Nor did he even respond to the Rule 29 acquittal or the Rule 33 new trial that was put in by the defense either, because he had a couple, 2-3 things to say to the government. But in case you missed any portion of any of that, because I know that there are some of y'all that are Henny gang down all the way to the socks, and y'all don't watch anybody or listen to anybody else, so y'all may have missed a couple things because some of y'all be at work and y'all got to get on the replay. So let me give y'all a quick little recap and tell you what they out here saying, child. So, first of all, the past 72 hours have been eventful when it comes down to the Diddy docs. And I must say that the defense and the government have been giving tea, honey. They've been giving, hot hinty. They've been getting hot hinty, okay? Because it's been getting spicy up in here. Now, like I said, for the past 72 hours, it's been going down. Now, on July 29th, Mark Agnifilo for the defense, of course, we already know that. But if you don't know that, let me say that for you. He decided that he was going to file a reconsideration for bail. I know, they are at the bail again. And this is what I said when I reported on it. And I was like, they are trying it with the bail. They are underneath the bad boy spell. Okay, no way out. Take that. Bad boys for life. But anyway, in Mark Agnifilo's bail reconsideration motion, okay, he talked about how Diddy, his detention wasn't fair, and he was calling it an exceptional circumstances based on 2 things. One, Mark Agnifilo was alleging that Diddy was just a customer of consensual sex work. He was just a John, you guys. He wasn't doing anything that, warranted any of this, and that the MDC jail conditions were inhumane. But I must say this, I'm sorry, that defense right there does not sit for me, because jail, prison, the Bing, whatever you call it, it's all inhumane. It's inhumane for everybody. So that's not an exceptional circumstance. But anyway, in his reconsideration motion that he filed, he cited cases that backed up their argument that Diddy should not be locked up just for the Mann Act charges, okay? Especially with no profit being gained, allegedly no force according to them, or trafficking of minors, which we did not hear at all in the case. Child, that's a whole nother video in itself of what we didn't hear in this case that people are now trying to forget or act like didn't exist because it wasn't part of this case. But that's another video. Anyway, so Mark Agnifilo, he also went on to offer in the proposed bail package a few things that we've already heard, but there's a couple things that we did not hear before being mentioned in this proposed package. Now, first of all, I want to say this. Diddy putting his 2-star island home up is not anything new. This is something that he already had done. He purchased 2-star so that he would be able to put it up to secure his bond. He also had already offered 3 financially responsible people to co-sign on the bond. He also offered to live at the 2-star mansion that he has and make that just his primary residency. The travel arrangements were already spoken about, where he could only go between the Southern District of Florida and the Southern District of New York and the airports in between, and that's it outside of being home, okay? You go nowhere, okay? He also had what else? Surrendering of his passport. Now, before Diddy was arrested in New York, he had already surrendered his passport to his defense team. But I guess the new thing for that would be that it would be surrendered to pretrial services and that he wouldn't apply for another passport. But what other new thing with pretrial services has been added is that he would be monitored by them. All right. And Diddy also offered to have a security team that would monitor him closely and make sure that he did not go anywhere, do anything, or have any company around that he wasn't supposed to be coming around him, or he wasn't supposed to be having coming around, and that he wouldn't be any violent, wouldn't give any violent behavior, that he wouldn't do any illegal substances, that he wouldn't do none of that stuff. But the problem with private security or even a security firm, because let's be honest, he had both, right? But he's already been through a whole trial where we heard about security being paid off, where security was covering up some of his bad behavior that was being testified to, and that was shown to us through photographs and text messages and emails and voice clips and things of that nature. They were already being paid to cover things up. So now the question becomes, even if it is a security firm that the government provides, would they be persuaded and put in the pocket? Because money talks and bullshit walks, right? But anyway, the other new thing that has been added is the fact that in the beginning, Diddy was offering $1 million bond. Well, Diddy said, I see that 1 million and I raise you 49 for my freedom, and I'm going to offer you $50 million. Okay, so that is the skimmy of what went down in this bail reconsideration. Also, Mark Agnifilo hit hard at the Department of Justice's policies and was saying that the Mann Act prosecutions had historically targeted pimps and traffickers, not people who paid for adult sex in private. So that's what this document was all about. But the judge, Judge Arul Submaranian, he responded, and, he acknowledged the fact that he got the request for them to release prior to pending sentence. And he gave the government until Thursday, July 31st, to respond to what the defense had put on the table. But baby, 24 hours later, we had Alexandra Shapiro popping in and hitting Judge Submaranian's desk with a motion for acquittal or a new trial. Okay. So this is their Rule 39 and Rule 33 motion. And they said that the judgment of acquittal, the Rule 29, they said that this should be actually given to them because the evidence didn't support the verdict, and a new trial, or I should say a new trial under Rule 33, saying that there was errors and unfairness at the trial, and they demanded a do-over. Okay. So what Alexandra Shapiro was saying was, either you're going to give us the Rule 29 acquittal or you're going to give us a Rule 33 new trial. That's what they're asking for. And what this was focusing on was inconsistencies in witness testimony, how the charges stretched the law, and the prejudicial impact of evidence the jury heard, but they should not have heard. Okay. Which is crazy because both sides were saying things when they shouldn't have been saying things, or pushing the line to get things out for the jury to hear. Both of them was doing that. But also in here, Alexandra Shapiro. Now, if you remember, I had already spoken to y'all about how Diddy's defense had put in for a Rule 29 prior to the verdict coming out. And they did that on June 24th of 2025 after the government rested. And they moved for an acquittal on all counts. And the judge, he did reserve on that decision. So they're asking him to make that decision on the acquittal, and if he won't acquit, then to give them a new trial based on the Mann Act only, not on anything else, but based on the Mann Act only. But baby, it's not over, because before the stroke of midnight, the government clapped back, and this time it was Jay Clayton, okay, the Trump appointee that wrote his letter. And let me just explain this to you. This response was a full read. It was a read, okay? Alexandra Shapiro, when she comes in and she puts her emotions in, she crosses her T's, she dots her I's, you could feel the passion in it, okay? I watched this lady in court. I watched her get angry or upset that she couldn't be heard on something, and I watched her hit the chair and turn her back and fold her arms. She's very passionate, and you could feel the passion in her filings. But baby, Jay Clayton, he's got a whole different type of tone to him. Now, the government said that Diddy isn't just a John in this filing, okay? He said that Diddy was running a double decades long freak off and that he was using drugs and violence to control both Cassie and Jane and the male escorts, okay? Now, I didn't hear about him using any violence against the escorts, but the escorts were using substances as well. The government also told the judge that Diddy didn't deserve bail, that he doesn't deserve a new trial. And he isn't entitled to anything but time, period. That's basically what they said. They even said, listen, we gonna hit him with some more time. We know that in the beginning, the government was asking for 51 to 63 months, but we reviewing these guidelines and we gonna take it a step further. And that's what he said. They also were citing something called Chapter 17 that was in Title 18, U.S. Code Chapter 17. That's what I'm talking about. And what it deals with is transportation for illegal sexual activity. So earlier in my live video, I did break that down, but it was a bit scattered. So I wanted to give that to y'all here because these are the things that the government was bringing up, okay? So first of all, I realize that a lot of people don't understand what Title 18 is. So Title 18 is basically a section of the U.S. federal law that deals with crimes and criminal procedures. So that's why everything we hear in court docs, it says U.S. Title Code 18 or Title 18 subsection blah, 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 right? Now, Chapter 17 is a law about, it deals with crossing state lines for illegal sex. And that's basically where like the Mann Act lives, right? Because that's what it consists of. The crazy thing to me is trafficking also lives there as well, because that's what happens in the trafficking. And that's why for a lot of people, including myself, I looked at the Mann Act and I looked at the trafficking and I'm like, they're one and the same. Like they just seem like they're one and the same, but they aren't. Now, according to subsection 3143A2, it says that if you're convicted of certain crimes like the Mann Act, that you go to jail pending sentences, no question asked, okay? And what I was able to relate to people was because Diddy is placed under a Chapter 117, that's why it made his detention mandatory, okay? It made it mandatory. There's no getting around it. That's what the judge deemed it, or however they came up with it. That's how it came up, okay? It was Chapter 17. So that's where that whole we're not letting you go. Also remember the propensity of violence, which by the way, I am going to show y'all a couple of 2-3 things before this video is over, just to show y'all that people like me who tell you certain things are not lying. Even though it's not the popular opinion, it's fine. Today, I will be the queen of unpopular opinions. When it comes down to the Diddy sector, that would be me. Sorry, Beyonce's wig, but that's who I am in this sector. Now, the government was also saying that Diddy was not able to meet subsection 3145C, which states that he would have to prove that he's not dangerous or a flight risk and show clear, basically like exceptional reasons why he shouldn't be locked up. And Judge Arun Subramanian had already said that he didn't see that. And the government is saying that they didn't see that either. But Diddy's team tried both angles, but the government is trying to shut both of those angles down. Now, we did also get a response from Judge Arun Subramanian, which I'm going to zoom in for y'all so that y'all can see, because he didn't even write it on a paper, okay? He just stamped it on top of the government's letter. The shade of it all. Okay, because it looks like Judge Arun can be a little shady. Okay, that's what it's looking like to me. All right, but he said that, you know, the government has to explain by August 4th why they redacted a portion of their response when pseudonyms are being used. But what also has me baffled is because why did you redact that when we're able to put it together that you were talking about Gina? Okay, let me go to the redacted portion right here just to remind y'all of what was what. This is the redacted portion, okay? And it says, but the defendant's suggestion that he went several years without inflicting violence on another person simply is not true. The defendant did engage in several acts of violence between 2018 and 2024, and it was all redacted. And then it says, although this evidence was not presented at trial, the court is free to consider it in assessing the defendant's dangerousness. See United States versus Lafante. Okay. So that is a case where I guess they used something that was not testified to in court. And I did try to do a little poking around and a little digging for you guys. Okay. And what I found out is, here's the twist. Dun, 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 to everything. All right. So, question being, can the grand jury transcripts or interviews be used in sentencing if the witness did not testify? Because that's basically what they're saying. So the answer to this would be yes, but it has some conditions. All right. Now, under federal sentencing rules, a judge can consider grand jury testimony, interview statements, police reports, photos, anything else reliable and specific, even if the person never showed up to court. But the defense can object it if the witness's credibility is shaky, the statements are vague or inconsistent, and there's no cross-examination opportunity, which means that if they're planning on using Gina's stuff in court, the government, which, by the way, everybody is just jumping into the ocean right now, the defense and the government, they're just jumping deep into the ocean. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets tried, but the defense can block this, okay? So basically, if they try to use Gina, who would be considered like a victim or a witness, and she gave statements to the government and the grand jury, the question that the judge would have to answer and he would have to decide on is it reliable? Is it corroborable? Is it specific? And does it unfairly prejudice the defense? And this, ladies and gentlemen, that's where the fight breaks out at the sentencing, okay? And the way the government and the defense have been pew, 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 back and forth, that would be a heated one. Now, this could help the government, okay? And it could help if they could paint a picture of a pattern, especially if multiple witnesses gave similar stories, which would be the testimony of Cassie lines up with the testimony of Gina, lines up with the testimony of Jane, which they all give a consistent pattern. They can also argue the propensity for violence, which is what the judge has already said, right? Because according to what we've heard in the testimony, Diddy has a history of abusive behavior. So even if the victim didn't testify, if it shows a pattern, they may be able to use it. Now, it could also work for the defense. If they say it's unfair to use statements from someone who was not cross-examined, that could work in their favor. They could say the statements are hearsay or unreliable or too old, but hearsay is also something that they could use in court. Did you know that? During the sentencing, that is. The defense can also argue that if it wasn't good enough for trial, that it shouldn't be good enough for sentencing. And I know that that's what they're going to go for, because when they were talking about Gina, remember Mark Agnifilo stood up and said, Gina's not coming. Just saying. He let it be known Gina was not coming. Okay. Now, as far as the propensity for violence, okay, people keep saying that Diddy was not violent. And I'm sorry, you guys, that is not accurate information, because Diddy was absolutely violent. First off, and you know, I hate to do this to prove a point, because there's so many people out here spreading so many false things. This is the propensity of violence that the judge was talking about. Let me can I close this? Let me close this. So we're just going to act like this stuff didn't happen, right? That's what we're going to do. Like, to all the people that are like, oh, Diddy wasn't violent, we're just going to act like this doesn't show a propensity of violence at all. These are different times. Okay? We're going to act like we also, thanks to TMZ and them posting, because I didn't save it to my computer, we're going to act like we didn't see Jane's doors busted in, kicked off the hinges, even though they're saying that, oh, Diddy was provoked. And I'm not here to debate that, but I'm just saying the propensity of violence where he kicked in the doors. All right. So you can't really say that it's not there when we have proof of it being there. All right. So now, where was I? Let me get back to this document, because this is where we were. Okay. We were on Jay Clayton, and this is what we were talking about. And we were also talking about the propensity of violence. All right. Now, this matters because under Chapter 17, you guys, especially the Mann Act, showing a pattern of violence, it adds weight at the sentencing. And that's what nobody is talking about. It does add weight. Okay, the judge can consider all of what we're calling domestic violence, the intimidation, the drug use linked to control is how the government has already tried to stack this so the judge could use that. Any pattern that puts others at risk is something that can add weight to his sentencing under the Chapter 117. I keep saying 17, but it's 117. Okay, even if it's not charged as separate crimes, they can still use this, you guys. All right. The government already told the judge that Diddy was violent in private relationships, and that the judge already said this. I'm sorry, that he was violent in his private relationships and that it couldn't be managed with house arrest or an ankle bracelet. All right. It's impossible to what did he say? It's impossible to police those conditions. That's what the judge said. Okay. So right now, the judge has wide power at sentencing, and he can increase the sentence based on uncharged but proven conduct. He could also, at sentencing, reject evidence that seems unreliable. He could accept interviews, grand jury statements, and more as long as they meet the standard of credibility. But here's the gag, you guys. Even if Diddy beats the Rule 29 or gets a shorter sentence, he's still looking at a conviction under Chapter 117. And that conviction carries mandatory consequences, including, well, for him, that wouldn't include him. So I'm not even going to say it because that wouldn't include him because he's not that. All right. Because I'm just saying that it could hold some mandatory sentences, but Diddy did not like traffic minors or any of those things. I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my daughter's chain while I'm doing this. He didn't traffic minors or any of that stuff, but basically I wanted to break all of that down for you guys and show y'all. Now, also in the government's response, right? They talked about how, not the government, in the defense's response, they did talk about how, Diddy was a John, and a lot of people are saying that Diddy did not set up any of the freak offs. But you guys, this is a text message that was in evidence, and this is from Diddy to Jules. And in this text message, Diddy is hitting up Jules, and he's saying, hey, this is last minute. Can you make this happen? Just let him know, and he's sorry for the late notice. Jules is saying, yes, I can come. Can you call in an hour? But yes. Diddy says, cool. But this next text message that I'm going to show you is where the flight arrangement happened. All right. And Diddy says, one way, you just have to tell me when you want to leave and it's done. No problem. So he's personally booking the flight and arranging this himself because people want to say that only the females did this. Only Jane and Cassie was doing this. But that's not true, you guys. That's not true. Diddy was booking stuff as well. So Jules says, okay, I was thinking tomorrow night, but definitely, by Friday afternoon, either is fine. That's for when he was going to leave. Diddy says, okay, I'll have both ready. Jules says, thank you. I'll see you guys later. Diddy says, okay. Hit me when you land, not her, because she doesn't know. And this is when he was setting up for Jules to fly in, and Jane didn't know that he was coming. So there you have Diddy booking the flight and flying the escort in. So you can't sit up here and say that Diddy was not doing any of these things. You also can't sit up here and say that Cassie was not doing these things and Jane wasn't doing these things either. This is why I said this case right here has layers to it. There's a lot of stuff that has gone on, okay? But to say, complete, no. Even I say Cassie and Jane are not 100% innocent, okay? And they were with it until they were not. But in the meantime and in between time, I just wanted to show that and share that. But we're waiting to see what the government is going to say, because I want to know why they redacted it too, especially if it's already put on record under a pseudonym. But we know that it's Gina. It's Gina. You talked about Gina already. You said it was Gina without saying it was Gina. And then you showed us a piece of testimony or a statement that she made. Because what you have to remember is with Gina, even though she didn't show up to testify in trial, Gina still went for the grand jury. Gina still interviewed with the government. Gina made it all the way into opening statements. And she had a day that she was supposed to show up to court to testify. But Gina mysteriously decided to pull out in the 9th inning, and we never got to hear from Gina or hear her side of things, which, like I had explained to you guys in a previous video, by her pulling out and her not coming in and giving her testimony, that gave a gap in between Cassie and Jane that was not plugged. So now the defense is trying to fill that up with the narrative that there was nothing going on. But if you guys would like for me to go ahead and review Tosh K's interview with Gina, which I know a lot of us have already seen, but if you would like for me to review it, y'all let me know down in the comment section by throwing your Henny glasses in the chat and put a 100 behind it so I know that that's what you're talking about. Other than that, let me know what you guys think about this down in the comment section below. Do you think that Judge Submarinian is going to go ahead and give Diddy bail? Do you think that he's going to go ahead and give Diddy a new trial? Or do you think that he's going to say, you know what, I'm just going to acquit him on everything? Or do you think he's going to let Diddy sit and cool his heels? Because as of right now, I know TMZ was projecting that Diddy could be home by the weekend. It looks like it won't be this. He'll be home on a weekend, but it's not going to be this weekend. But anyway, let me know what y'all think. Be sure to like, comment, and of course, subscribe to the video. And I will see y'all in the next spill, y'all. Peace, everybody. We